Good afternoon to all of you, dear participants.
Good afternoon, sir.
CSR Sikri CSR online webinar in the Connect with Scientist program. Today we have Dr. Ragesh Chandra Parikh. He is working as a scientist in Central Electrochemical Research Institute, Karaikudi. Ragesh Parikh is a senior scientist in Corrosion and Material Protection Division at the CSIR Central Electrochemical Research Institute, Karaikudi, and he has more than 10 years research experience in the field of corrosion science and engineering. Rakesh holds the degree of MSc Chemistry from the Utkal University, Odisha, M.Tech in Corrosion Science and Engineering from IIT Bombay, and PhD degree from National Center for Advanced Tribology within Engineering Sciences of the Faculty of Engineering and the Environment at the University of Southampton, United Kingdom. He has got postdoctoral research experience from the School of Engineering, University of Edinburgh, United Kingdom in the area of CO2 research. Ragesh has research interest in flow corrosion, solid particle erosion and erosion corrosion interactions, mass transfer kinetics under hydrodynamics, self-assembled monolayer for protection, potential difference, adsorption and desorption of organic inhibitor molecules, galvanic corrosion in heat exchangers, cathodic production for oil and gas industries, biocorrosion, natural product as antifoulant, and design of high pressure cell for testing of supercritical fluid. So he has a vast experience and many more field he has concentrated on it. He has been involved in studying on failure analysis of crude oil storage tank and evaluation of inhibitors for oil and gas industries. He has been working various funded projects from CSIR, DST, and various industries like IOCL, HPCL, and Boeing USA project, international project. He has published and presented several papers, H Index 5 and I-10 Index 4, and one book chapter to his credit in aspects of galvanic corrosion of coupled titanium and nickel aluminum fronts in marine environment. He has teaching experience in corrosion science at undergraduate at the level of P.Tech in chemical engineering at CSIR Sikri and PhD level for ACSR PhD students and here CSIR Sikri Karaikudi. He is a faculty in charge for corrosion practical for P.Tech and experimental electrochemistry, especially for TAFL and LPR studies for PhD students. He is the technical coordinator and faculty for industry academic oriented technology courses on cathodic production and pipeline corrosion for engineers, entrepreneurs, and practitioners, etc. With this few words, now I invite Dr. Ragesh Chandra Parikh for his deliberations. Sir, please.
Thank you, sir. Let me share the slides. Sir, can you see the slide full view? Can you see it? And can you hear me? One of you, if you can confirm.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I don't see much participant, but I would like to thank Dr. Angapan sir and Dr. Madam for giving me this an opportunity to talk about, in the program called Jigyasa Connect with Scientists. I think this is a wonderful program. And my today's talk is on nanomaterial for corrosion mitigation. So this is the area I'm going to talk about today. And what I understand from this, this topic, as I get to know from Dr. Angapan, a lot of these KV school students, starting from 8th class, 9th class, 10th class, up to 12th, people are there, the students are there, and the faculties are there. And I all welcome all of you. And I hope I will be able to, give a because it's a vast area of research we do at SICRI on this corrosion, and I like to able to bring some some of the concept to you, and I hope it will be helpful to students. So what I have done actually, when I came to know in the afternoon from Dr. Angapan, these topics is about this the attendance, the people who are attending, they are from the KV schools. So what I have done, I instead of this a lot of research areas, a lot of research results you will see here. Rather than focusing on that, I would like to talk about the very basic things, and I will try to link with your subjects. But what I understand, there is a chapter called materials, metals and non-metals, starting from 8th class onward, which I have been taking for my niece. She is now 8th standard, which I have been teaching her this subject metals and non-metals in that chapter 4, I think. And what I observed there, it talks about the corrosion. Some 1 or 2 lines are there about the corrosion. Then it will talk about the oxidation. Then it talks about the electroplating. Then it talks about the dissolve of the metal in the acidic media. So all these things are there. So that part, what I'm doing, I will show you some little bit. I will try to explain you, and you go back and look at your own chapters in the science book under metal and metals and non-metals. You will try to able to get a clear concept of what is a corrosion, and how do mitigation means how do you control it or we stop it, and what is the material we are using. This material part, nanomaterial, we already know that the size itself tells us what is the material. So these three parts is there here. So what I will suggest you, once I finish this talk, you go back and start look into that chapter, metals and non-metals, which I know, I have seen it, I have read it. I taught my niece in this, during this lockdown period last month, or the season 8th class. So what I observed, it talks about very couple of things is told. When I was teaching her, I was able to, from my experience, a lot of things I was able to tell. So these are the things I have also included today in this class. Okay, so what is a corrosion? Before I go and define all the scientific definition, now look at this particular slide. Now I have on the left, first we have here, I have a cycle, then I've got a bus, then I've got a train, then I've got an airplane. These are all transport sector. Okay, so all this transport sector has, like you can see your cycle handle. When you get excited, in a young age, you get a small cycle, then you go on, when the age goes up, then you buy a different cycle. But when you buy a new cycle, you're very excited, you clean it every day, you maintain it very nicely. But over a period of time, couple of months or couple of years, you start seeing some kind of damage to that, your pristine clear surface, and that you see the rusting here. Then you start getting upset. How do you do that? So this is where because you don't use any preventive method, or either you don't clean it every day and all that, or you don't keep it dust free, water free, moisture free. That's why you are getting all these things. Okay. So similarly, all other transport sector in the bigger way, if you look at the train line, fully corroded. And this pipe, this aeroplane, which the top roof of these aeroplane completely come out. This is one of the reason was your corrosion. So what I'm trying to tell you, this transport sector, even in a submarine also can also corrode. So because each contains a metal and that undergoes corrosion. Then you talk to some industrial sector, we can see some pipeline here inside. You see how much corrosion has happened. This bent pipe, you can see the external structure. Then there are some coating was inside that also got damaged. Then this is a pipeline structure. You can see there's a big crack and big hole, and here you can see the water leaking from the pipeline. And here the coating, whatever they were given, that also damaged. Then you come to more of what you call the various engineering structure. This is a heat exchanger. This heat exchanger, you don't see it, but in all these plants you go, whether it's a thermal power plant, whether it's a gas plant, they all have this particular component. And this component is actually made up of 2-3 different alloy, 2-3 different of metal. And the whole idea is to exchange the heat. If your plant operating at a higher temperature, you want to cool it down, they use heat exchanger, or if they want to increase the heat, they use this heat exchanger. These are some pumps, actually centrifugal pump, is a monorail pump. This is a choke valve, and you can see how it is getting damaged. And this is a very simple example I'm trying to tell you. Look at how this is actually in our institute. this is a pole actually, and you can see the grass. Through the hole you can see the grass. This is cylindrical object, cylindrical pole, and you can see the hole is started in this particular portion. I want to say you this entire metal, this thin maybe 3 to 4 mm, it has already eaten away, and is the other side of the pipeline that is also eaten away. Now you can see the grass. So these are the devastating effect of the corrosion. Then you come to other structure, like if you have observed when they are building a new building coming up, they use like a lot of supporting structure for the laborer to go each level of the building. They use some angling, and these are in the lying just on the on the outside, it is getting corroded. Then these are also some corrosion you can see, and they have some coating, and you can see this is a very nice crack here. It's bending position. Then they have welded it, but still there is a crack is coming up. And this is what I actually, the building which I'm sitting now, if you look at the back of my building or on the side, there is a wall. Okay, so that wall, what it does, it has, you see outside like nice color is given, nice paint is given, whether it is Asian paint, Berger paint or Nippon, what are the paints given, and inside that you have the concrete. Then in the concrete, to give a more strength, we need a steel structure, steel rod. That's what we call the rebar. Now you see that inside the steel rod, as corrosion has happened. Once the corrosion has happened, it the product which was accumulating on the surface, it becomes, it built up a lot of stress. Then one day it cracked the building. That is how this, your building and the collapse happens. Then you come to a couple of another examples. Some pipeline, you can see how badly corroded. Then inside the concrete, you see the rebar how it's corroded. Then our, when you go in a sea breeze, that structure which is in the supporting here, that also undergoes severe corrosion. Then this is our battery. In home, we have a lead acid battery. Sometimes it is given warranty of 4 years or 5 years. So you must ask, why can't it go for 10 years or 20 years? What is the process problem is happening? One of the reason is the corrosion. Then this is one storage tank or in a transporting a tank, like if when we are go to petrol pump, but the petrol to the petrol pump comes through a container. It's made of metal, or or the gases coming to our to the depot, that is also made of metal, or your acid, all the things, they're all being used this metal. So everywhere we are seeing what are the components we are seeing here. Mostly we are seeing these are all corroded. Then forget all these structures what I said. I told you in the first one, like if you see, I just want to tell here, you look at the bridge. I'm sure anybody can identify this bridge. What is this bridge? Before I just forgot it. Anybody can identify where is this bridge? Can anybody identify? You can hear me, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that is a Pamban bridge, Rameswaram. When you go to Rameswaram, that's a Pamban bridge. That bridge I
just a minute, Barik sir.
Yes, sir.
Barik sir.
Yeah, please go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Are you moving the slides?
Yeah, slides can move, no?
Yeah. Okay, sir. Okay, moving.
Okay. So what I was trying to tell you, we saw the transport sector, like, just one example, remember our cycle, how it's getting corroded. Then we come to our, pipelines, bringing drinking water to home or bringing petrol to our also vehicle. That is one thing. Then we look at the building where I'm staying, we are living or we are staying, that building also, the steel structure which is inside the building, that is also getting corroded. But now for all these structures are externally. Like right now where I am sitting, the chair you have, the chair legs, suppose it is made up of metal, or the desk which you are keeping your laptop or your books, that also be made up of metal. You see, you just observe in your classroom, all these benches and tables, if they are made up of any metal, they are not looking all the time new. So we give a coating. So they start corroding. And that corrosion, how it happens, that I will explain. But here, if you see here, all these structure over here, these are within our own body. Within our own body means when I'm having a good teeth, if I don't take care of the teeth, either it undergoes decay, then I lose the mechanical strength, and then I can't eat it. Then it may reach my nerve cells. So we need to either take the teeth out or the tooth out, or I have to protect it. So what I do here, I put some, a crown here made up of metal, but that metal here, you can see these are the things actually here. These are the metal screw and these crowns. When these metal components is in touch with the saliva, so that actually become a problem for the body. Then you have some of these are always used in the spinal cord, in our bone, the bone external body, then inside bone, which is soft one, they use a metal. These are all 3D printed metal. Then this is your spinal cord, and this is your jaw bone in the teeth, and this is your hip. So these are the metal structure. They are being used in our body to whenever we having a trouble with our own body. It means if an accident, in order to join these two bone, they use a metal plate. They just to screw it and they use it metal plate. Or if there is a teeth knocked out, I need to use a implant. Suppose you are playing cricket or you had an accident, one of the teeth come out, and if it's very early as it comes out, it won't look it makes it difficult for us to eat. So then we go for a extra an artificial teeth. So that will having a screw which is being put into this jawbone. Then it contains a crown. The crown, this is the crown. It will be made of ceramic or maybe metal, depending on the cost and all that other things. But what I'm trying to tell you, all these components, they undergoes corrosion. So now I show you one example here. You see what's happening here. This is just a beaker. In that beaker, there is a liquid is there, and into that liquid, I have put on metal samples. 1, 2, 3. Each case, I have put metals. So you look carefully. What is happening? These things I will explain you. See here, there is a metal. Some gas is evolving. You can see that some gas is evolving here. Some gas is evolving here, and in there are maybe in maybe in among these three, one of the beaker will have less gas evolution, but definitely the gas is evolving. You can see that. But what is that gas is evolving? What is that liquid is that? And what is that metal? And what exactly is happening here? I would like to explain you with a mechanism. So normally this corrosion, what we call it, a chemical and electrochemical reaction between a material, that is metal, and its environment, and that produces the deterioration of the metal and its property. It means you saw your cycle, that structure, your handle is made up of a metal, and it reacted with an environment. What is the environment? Every day you come to go to school and come back. So in that, you are not putting that, the environment is here, now your atmosphere. Like I am sitting here, what I was telling you an example, your classroom. In that classroom, you have you have a bench and you have a table. So that then those bench and table, they starts getting corroded. So what is the environment here? That is the classroom. So now, but we have to look at the property of the classroom. What exactly is there in the in that atmosphere that actually corrodes my metal. And when I'm saying corroding a metal, I'm going through a reaction called a chemical reaction and an electrochemical reaction. So these things we will see when we, if you look around any structure, any metallic structure lying outside, how they're getting, they're getting a different color. Like for example, when the people started talking about corrosion, they looked into this iron or the steel, which had a brown product on it. And that initially they called it rusting. Then they later realized that terminology came up, the corrosion. But one of the question is here, why does a metal corrodes? Why does a metal corrodes? And how does it corrode? Then what is the driving force and where does it happen? So we know where does it happen. This is the environment. The environment is responsible for your metal to corrode it. So now we will see, this is if you remember your class 8 book, if you remember your class 8 book, what I was telling you, metal and metals, they are in the first few, I think the first paragraph, it talks about the minerals, it talks about the ores. So here, when I am talking about the, my cycle, what is the metal it is made up of? Is it made of mild steel? And if I look at my mobile charger, the current is coming from the, current is coming from the plug to your mobile. What is the metal is inside? Is it coming through a plastic wire or it is coming through a metal wire? So like that, and your laptop also, what is the body? If you look at the laptop body, whether it is a plastic one or a metal one, and your key also. So these are all the things, what are the structures we see around, they are all actually metal. So what happened here initially, if you see the human civilization, the progress of the human civilization occurred, due to this discovery of the metal. Means what happened, these minerals, they are all lying on the, under the ground or above the ground as a reservoir. So what they did actually, these things, they called it minerals or the ores. So once these ores, what they did, if you know, there is a, I think mostly, they say like, if anybody has read this today's Indian Express, it was written there, long back around more than 460 BCE, this Karnataka region and Tanjavur or Salem, they were the one, these are the places they used to extract metals like iron from the ores. And they used to transport to or export to different part of the world. And from that, they were actually responsible for changing the civilization. So it made a lot of, a lot of ships, a lot of containers, everything came up once they got able to extract your iron from the ores. And you know that hematite and magnetite, they are the ores of the iron. Then in order to there, you can see here in this diagram, this is called energy, means very excited state. And this energy in this particular place is very low. And here, if you see on this other side, it is very high. So what they do, they take this, ores, throw into a furnace, they put some coke, then the cats make them fire, they pass some oxygen, they maybe pass some sulfur and all that different things they do. They pass some carbon and various things they do. Once they get a metal, then they will combine with other other elements to get an alloy. But what happened here, if you look at our home, the utensil, it is made of stainless steel. And sometimes if you are not getting a proper good quality stainless steel, it will crack or it will some rust will happen. You can see some pits are on the surface. You will see that. So that means that is actually starts having corrosion. So what I'm trying to tell you, whatever the metal or the alloy, like your cycle, your laptop structure, your table you're sitting, if it's a metal table or the metal chair or your aeroplane or buses, a pipeline, all these are made up of metal. But when they made up of some metal, these metal they extracted from the ore. But now you can see the ores in the lowest energy state. Now it moved to higher energy state. But once the move to higher energy state, it is not a stable. Actually, it's always have a tendency to come back to the ores, but it is not able to come back. With the ores, we know that it has taken thousands of years to form ores. So initially, immediately it goes to the right side as a product. And that product we are calling a corrosion product. But what we have seen, this corrosion product having similar kind of the composition as the ores, and they are in the same energy level. So it is a natural tendency for the metal which we have got from the ores to go through this process to become a corrosion product, and they come into the lowest energy. Then it's very happy to stay there. So this is the main reason the corrosion is happening. It means whatever the metal, if anybody knows that your steel is nothing but iron, then when you go to stainless steel, they have added some other element, but the iron has been extracted. Then when they add like a chromium, nickel, that also has been extracted from different metals and ores, and they combine it and we form a alloy. Then we make our own product. So like your copper wire for transporting electric current. But if you look at the current which is coming to your home from the main supply, like high tension line, they are of aluminium. So the aluminium is also extracted from the bauxite. So all these metals are in the higher energy state because we need to form a product. We need to form our requirement. For a requirement, I need to make a cycle, I need to make an aeroplane. So I need to get this metal, then ores. But I am actually disturbing the very peaceful state of a metal. That is called the ores. Now they want to go back to the ores through this corrosion product. So now you look at the graph here, you look at the diagram here, this corrosion product and this both are in the same energy level. So because of same energy level, now that is a tendency, thermodynamic, because of only instability of this metal. So it has a tendency to go back to the lowest energy state. So ores is the lowest energy state and a corrosion product. So now, but But what this topic is, I want to do, I want to control this metal to corrosion product, but I want to control here, they don't reach. Okay, they don't reach corrosion as a corrosion product, because I want to, I have a cycle, I want to go for 5 years. I don't want to break it immediately. So for that, I need to do a mitigation strategy. So that's why you look at your cycle, you can see that various things are there. Somewhere you will see the chain and the wheel, you will not see any coating on that. But the handle or your cycle rim, there you will see some color coating, and the supporting the middle structure, it has also coating. All these things are not only given for aesthetic purpose, it has also a property to control the corrosion. Like any metal structure you see, for example, like our house, the wall you might be given a nice color, you like, oh, I need to put the color into my bedroom, a pink color or maybe a blue color, depending on your choice. But it is not only adding the aesthetic purpose, it has also ability to stop the corrosion. That's what I will tell you. So now we'll understand how the corrosion is happening. Okay, how the corrosion is happening, how my cycle is corroding. Okay, how my my car is corroding, how my aeroplane is coming, how the pipeline is corroded. So it is a metal. Let us think of a steel metal. Let us think a steel metal, and its composition is of iron. What I will tell you, the 8th class students, they should go and look into the metals and non-metals chapter. They should know which metal has what is the symbol. For example, like iron, it is iron, IRON, but symbol we are using Fe. So in that periodic table, they can also follow at least 30 up to 30 elements. They should remember it by heart, starting from hydrogen to up to zinc, up to or if you can remember all 118. But there is a very easy way to remember also. You must look into that, what is the relationship you can develop with each the element that you can see, or from these elements whatever is in the periodic table in home. Like for example, I am drinking water. You will see in the periodic table, you will get hydrogen, where is the position number 1, and oxygen position number 8. Then similar like iron, you have to find where is the position, or you have to find this other things whatever there in the element. Okay, now I want to know how the metal is corroding. What happens? So here, just to look at this one, this beaker. Okay, this is, I have made a schematic, rectangle schematic. It is a beaker. So this beaker is containing something here. This beaker is containing an electrolyte. Here, electrolyte is nothing but I'm sure this terminology is there also in the class 8th book. This is nothing but a chemical compound which has a property to carry some current in the ionic form. There are some ions are there, they can carry the current. So that is inside this beaker. That means I'm sitting in this room. You think of in this room, I should have some electrolyte, because what I said to you, in your classroom, your bench which is made of metal is corroding. So then the question is, what is the electrolyte there? That we will see now. Then what is which is corroding? My bench is corroding, my cycle is corroding. So in that case, that metal which is corrodes, we call it the anode, where the anodic reaction is happening, and you will see that this reaction, iron to your iron plus to this electron. So the moment this reaction is happening, what happens here? You can see one electrons comes out. This is actually 9th, 10th class people, they will understand, but I can tell you here for the 8th class students, they also have these things. Here, let us think of the current is coming out. Okay, the current goes to the other side. In the other side, there is another metal, and this particular one can be a metal, not necessary to be a metal. Okay, so now we will understand the cycle or my mobile or my bench in my home or in the school which is corroding. That is called the anode. Okay, that is called the anode, and that anode, you can see this particular schematic. I have kept electrolyte. So that electrolyte in your bench, in your classroom or in your home or in your cycle when it's going where you're traveling, the atmosphere. This atmosphere contains oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, and all that. So that atmosphere, we will see it act as a electrolyte. We will see that, or some moisture is there. So that will act as a electrolyte. So the moment it is there, that means if I put my cycle, one day I wash my cycle or I keep the cycle outside, rain is there. Next day water will be there on the cycle. So the main job is I should clean it. If I'm not cleaning it, your cycle, which behaves like an anode, starts corroding. The moment it starts corroding, you cannot see this current is coming out, but there are a way to measure it. That's what I will show you. We do in the experiment, we can measure it, and physically you will see the damage on your cycle. So that damage on the cycle is nothing but which act as anode is actually starts corroding. That means some current it gives and the current goes to the other side. While doing that, you can see in the environment or inside that in the beaker, there are some ionic reaction is happening. So what happens, for example, let us see, I have a steel surface. I took some acid solution like hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid, I immerse it. This is the one I was showing you. Here, if you look at here, what I was showing you, this is a piece of mild steel. This is iron, composition is iron, major composition is iron, and it has also other alloying element. Forget about that. So this iron is there. Now I have kept in a beaker. This is the beaker, and this is the the solution. I call it an electrolyte. Here that is some conducting solution because a solution in normally a corrosion reaction to happen, the current is passing on the metal surface. You see whatever the reaction is happening here, you look at these bubbles. These bubbles is nothing but here I am speaking about hydrogen gas. So this in hydrochloric acid, which is in that beaker, when it starts reacting, when the iron forms one iron plus 2 and these 2 electrons are coming out, it reacts with the acid H plus ion and it gives a gas actually. It's like the bubble, like a gas packet. And that gas you can see here, it is all forming on the surface of the sample. You can see. That means now my reaction has already started and your iron is becoming corroding. I think because it's very good, if I have taken a sodium chloride solution, probably you would have seen something different. But here I have taken only HCl solution. It's a clear solution, and that HCl solution, what it does that it can show that a lot of this gas is evolving on the surface of the metal. So that means the electron has come out of this metal and it reacted with the electron, I got a hydrogen gas. So that means a corrosion reaction to happen, I need 2 reactions. In this case, I'm generating an electron, and in the other case, there is a consumption in the electrolyte. Then this is an acid media, but then you go to seawater. You go to either water, your drinking water, or you go to seawater. In these cases, there are some, or maybe some in acid, some oxygen is there. So in these cases, there will be electron. But in this cathodic side, it will take the electron whatever is generated on this side. That means on the anode side, like your cycle, when it starts corroding, it gives some electron, and once it gives an electron, that electron is being used by the oxygen which is in the atmosphere. In this room I am sitting, and you have some water, it could be in the form of moisture, maybe few droplets. You can see that here I am taking 1 molecule of oxygen, 2 molecules of water. If anybody can calculate how much is the volume and how much is the concentration, it will be easier to understand. But anyway, remember, if I take 1 molecule of oxygen, I will take 2 molecules of water, and I know the size, I know the volume and all that. So that actually, if on your cycle, if you don't dry the cycle after rain or after washing, if you don't dry the surface, what it does, oxygen is able to come from the atmosphere, and the moisture or the water which is sitting on the top of your cycle can take part in this reaction. They will take the electron which is generating from here. As a result, your corrosion starts forming. So now this is what I'm trying to talk about. In the anode side, this is the steel happened, and you can see the iron plus 2 iron is come out of, here we saw that iron to iron plus 2. Now it's actually, you can see here what I'm trying to tell you. Now my metal has been eaten away from this plate. So iron plus 2. That is actually physically it will come out. The iron plus 2 will come out with reacting with this other side, other chemical, like this water, oxygen plus water, which was here giving rise to OH minus, is reacting with now forming iron hydroxide and precipitate. It does that. So these are the actually corrosion happens, the product formation occurs. And it's a very simple example. What I'm trying to tell you here, this iron and steel, when it starts corroding in acid media, we saw some bubbles. But in the other places, this OH minus which is formed, you see there are series of reaction. Iron plus to OH minus, but the OH minus is here. Iron hydroxide, iron OH whole 3, then Fe2O3 water. So these are the reaction. This is actually here. This example is telling a droplet of water, lying on your cycle surface, or on your or in the room, in the bench you are there. It's a very tiny amount of moisture. It is there. So now the oxygen from the atmosphere, like the oxygen which we are breathing, that also get into this electrolyte, and that dissolves there, and this reaction actually initiates, and you get a different product. This is what happens for the corrosion happens. But here one of the example I have given, and I'm sure people will know where this structure is. Can anybody tell that? Where is the structure? What is this one?
Iron pillar.
Yes. So this is in Qutub Minar in Delhi. This is an iron pillar. The name itself suggests the composition is iron. Okay. So now why I'm put this example here, but this structure doesn't corrode actually. It doesn't corrode in the sense, I think it's maybe 1,000 years now from the back. This was, and I'm sure I don't know the king. The name of the king is probably Chandragupta. I think during that time this was being made, because that time the India was undergoing this, a lot of furnace was coming out. They were discovering all these, before that also they were discovering these ores, and these ores they were able to extract the pure iron, and they were making some product. So while they're doing the product, this pillar was made. But one of the interesting thing this pillar is, like I show you some example in the morning, sorry, in the beginning, your cycle has corroded, but this particular one has not corroded. So what is the composition? This work was actually carried out, one of the lab in Kanpur, IIT Kanpur. They found out normally this iron alloys, normally they should go all these steps and starts corroding. But rather than this one, this particular one, what they did, they added some other element. One of the element, what we call it a phosphor. This phosphorus element which they added here, that reacted with this iron and it formed a film on the surface. And that film is still protecting this structure. So this is one of the way to mitigate that corrosion. This is when you go to Delhi, who has not seen it, you will see in the Qutub Minar, I think on the, when you enter inside, on the right side, you can see the structure around 7 to 8 meters height, and maybe the width maybe around 1 or 2 feet. And very nice structure where you can see maybe little bit of pitting you will see, but very clean. So far the structure is intact after 1,000 years. So that was when they were extracting the pure iron and making this particular pillar. They added some couple of element like phosphorus, which actually helped in forming film on the surface, and they were able to protect the structure. Then I said, this is a structure. Then another example I'm giving you, you will see in your textbook, it talks about this example, iron and copper. Here what I have done is steel is there and copper wire I have taken. And when the two of them you exposed to water, because for example, in a heat exchanger, what they do, there are tubes are coming. These are like titanium tubes, and this particular is a copper. In these two cases, you can see this first one. This example you look at here. This is very clean. This is corroded, that is not corroded. In two metals, when they are joined together, like you have to see, sometimes your metal door is there, if the handle is different composition, you will see a corrosion starts there. Then if you having a nuts and bolts in two different composition, there also corrosion starts. So these are the examples I'm trying to tell you, and here I'm telling steel and copper, but I'm also telling steel is the one which is corroding, then they compare. These things you have to look into a textbook. It is called the reactivity of a metal. That also you can observe. You can look into the series. There are some of the given platinum, titanium, carbon, all the top of the series are gold. Like for example, like the jewelry gold. If you see the jewelry, the gold, why it's so expensive compared to the steel. First of all, the gold they don't get as a ores. There are some ores are there, but majorly the gold is available as a gold. So it never existed as a compound. So it's a very stable compound in the air, normal atmosphere. It will never react and form any product. So that is what we see that. And your silver, but in the other way, it is very cheaper. The reason is that it's a precious metal. People can use it as a jewel, but still it is get tarnished. That's why you try to clean it and to make it shine. So similarly, here these structures, anode and cathode, iron and copper, when you compare all these different metals in your book, I remember it is called the reactivity of metals. You can see that from there they have a ranked actually who will corrode. But these things are actually what happened. Like when you go to higher classes, you will understand why they have been ranked like that. But I can tell you, a lot of measurements has been done to prove that this is the metal like gold will not corrode. If you make a jewelry out of iron, it will corrode. This is what we do some electrochemical measurement, and we have confirmed. And this is another thing structure here. Anybody can say which is where it is? Anybody can say? Anybody from Tamil Nadu? Any students from Tamil Nadu? or Kanyakumari side?
Sir, I am from Tamil Nadu.
Yeah, can you say where it is? Have you been to Kanyakumari?
No, sir.
Okay, this is called Thiruvallu statue. If you go there, you will see there is a Vivekananda statue in one side and this statue is there and all these things actually. But here the interesting things why I put it here, you see what I'm saying, what are the factors involved in corrosion? So far we saw this atmosphere I'm sitting, that is also responsible for corrosion. Then I show you an example of the beaker having some liquid that is called acid environment. Then I'm having some oxygen here, I'm having some water. But here this particular structure is in the sea itself, the sea water. So what it does, but this structure is not made up of metal, it is made up of stone. Okay, but here there is no corrosion, but there is another phenomenon occur called erosion. But that also our institute works on it to prevent this erosion of this, this statue. This poet is very famous here, and to protect it. So what I'm trying to tell you, this environment, whatever your environment you are seeing, any compounds which are very reactive in nature or having a temperature, high pressure issue, or environment is there, your metal and this environment can start reacting and form the corrosion can proceed. So now I want to protect the corrosion. Now how I want to mitigate? I told you the metal which is corroding called the anode and the metal which is not corroding called the cathode side. So if I can, then I have an environment here that is your electrolyte. Like this room, I have an environment and here the current is passing. So now I have 4 components, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I can control one of them, I can mitigate the corrosion. So that means how do I, what changes I should do to this anode, I can control the corrosion. What changes I can do on this side, I can control the current. And what is the strategy I can adapt so the current doesn't go from this metal to another metal. Like, if you look in home, when you're plugging your mobile phone to this one, you see that plastic that, the 2-pin mobile, when you're putting in the middle, you are holding in the plastic. So plastic is what it does. It doesn't transfer any current to your hand. So that way you are protected. So similarly, so this current which is going from this metal to the other side, I can put a plastic cover it or what you call a coating. Or this metal which is corroding, I can change it or I can do some coating on it. It will not corrode. Then I have an environment here. I can put a barrier in between that. Like our wall, I told you, inside the wall you have the brick, the cement, then you have a steel rod. But on the top of the wall which is facing to us, we put a coat on that. We put a color. So that color, what it does, it will stop the oxygen and water to go inside and stop the corrosion. It will not allow that. So these are what I'm trying to tell you. These are the all this particular setup which is responsible for corrosion. We can control it if one of the component I'm trying to tell missing it or disable it, or I can put a barrier and all that. So these things we will discuss. Here I have, so what we do actually, how do we control the anode part? I can modify the metal. Like if you look at your stainless steel if you look at your in your home, that utensil is made up of steel. But if you look at your normal pipeline, made of mild steel. If you see some of the pipeline, the composition is only iron and having a carbon. But to get a better alloy, we put iron plus carbon plus chromium plus nickel. These things we do. So we modify that metal. We make some alloy and then we can do modification of the environment in this room. In this room, if a lot of things are there which is going to corrode my metal, if I can remove it, that we can also prevent the corrosion. There is one terminology we call use scavenger. That is an oxygen if in the atmosphere which is very responsible for corrosion. If I can remove all the oxygen, there will be no corrosion. Then change the metal. Okay, then I can have some non-metallic materials for construction. It means instead of using a metal species, if I can use some non-metals like a plastic, I can also corrode. This one we can. So what we do, we use a suitable alloy that we modify the metal, then you put a coating. If you put a coating, you create a barrier between your corroding metal and the environment. Then you do a cathodic protection and a corrosion inhibitor. There are some strategies here. I'm going to talk about these things. You can look at here. This is the rebar which is in house in your on the wall. Now we have given a coating actually, so that this will not corrode. Then you can see this is actually a ship. This is a propeller. So in order to protect that, the ship to corrode, I am using some of the different metal, and by doing that I can corrode it. And this is a metal. I have put some coating on the top of it. This is a coating, and you can see a superhydrophobic coating. There is a coating I can develop. It will never allow the water to accumulate on the surface. So that will hit the water. So it's called superhydrophobic. And these are the things, mechanism we explain. So I'm going to talk about a little bit. I know this topic will be very tough for you, but anyway, what I'm trying to tell you, just to understand, you go back to your classroom and look into the metals and metals chapter, and then there are concepts like what is corrosion, what is anode, what is cathode, what is an electrolyte, what is plating, what is galvanization. These terminology you read it. Okay, this is a somebody's mic is on. Can you switch it off? Can you mute it? Someone's mic is on. Okay, so this is a chemical substance we take. Like a chemical substance means like your salt. What you're eating, that is a chemical substance, sodium chloride. So we have a lab, a lot of chemicals we will put in that environment. I will protect it. Means imagine water is coming to your home through a pipeline. The pipeline is corroding. So I have to use a chemical in that it will protect the pipeline as well as it will not eat me. It will not eat us. It will not create any damage to us. Or your pipeline, if you look at your outside your home, sorry, when you are going on the street in the main highway, you will see big pipelines going along the highway. These pipelines actually carry your oil, maybe crude oil like petrol, diesel, the processed oil like diesel, petrol, kerosene, and gases, and all these contents. So what people they do it in order to protect the inside the corrosion. So what they will do, they will add some chemical substance, and that chemical substance will go inside metals in the through that petrol and diesel, and it will it will form a film on the metal substrate, and it will prevent the corrosion. So these are things actually what I was trying to tell you, and this mechanism is forming. I don't think you will be able to understand, but here what I can say that this chemical substance, what we call an inhibitor, we do some experiment here. When you go to higher class, you will do some experiment like like if anybody understands that Ohm's law, if anybody understands the Ohm's law, the voltage and the current relationship, here also this is a voltage, this is a current. I use these two terminology or two measurements. Either I measure the current or the voltage of a metal which is corroding, and then I put some chemical substance into that and measure, and then look at this graph. And here you can see the current is here. The moment I'm adding an inhibitor, the current is going backward. These are my chemical compounds: chromate, nitrite, molybdenate, tungstate, phosphate, silicates, and all these compounds. Similarly, there are some other compounds are there: zinc sulfate, chromium sulfate, nickel sulfate. All these compounds have a mechanism to prevent the corrosion. This is how we look into that. There are some organic compounds is also there. If anybody knows nitrogen, oxygen, they also prevent the. In this particular work, I am talking about nanomaterial. Nanomaterial, the first you have to understand what is the meaning of nano. These are the things when I teach my son about the measurement, you have to get the concept of, how we measure certain, diamond, in a unit. Whether you start first, first in your class, they teach you first millimeter, then centimeter, then meter, then kilometer. But these are the actually you are able to see that compound in a millimeter shape, but when it goes to in a nano range, like it is I think 1/1000th of a millimeter, if you go there you cannot see. But there are some compounds, they exist in that size and say in the dimension below less than 100 nanometer, and this can be some like a dot type, or it can be a tube type, or it can be a fiber type. This compound will exist, and these compounds, what we do, we take into our application. This nano compound will be, you will find in every application, whether you talk about agriculture industry, biomedical industry, or the electronic industry, any industry they are using. So what I have done, my student and we have done this work, we have taken two compounds called a nickel tungsten, cobalt tungsten. We made it some shape of nano, not into that shape of less than 100 nanometer. Then we tried to protect the corrosion of copper. See this one here, you look at here, this metal is a copper. Copper application, you know that simply you just open up your mobile charger, you will see that inside where is made of copper. The current is also coming inside, you will find it's a copper. So these copper sometimes in the use in application, they make pumps, they make valves, they make some heat exchanger, and they carry seawater. In that case, it starts corroding. When this corroding in a seawater, this sort of reaction happen, and seawater, a lot of chloride is there, sodium chloride, the salt which is there, and that salt goes series of reaction and form different corrode product. So in order to protect that corrosion, in order to make the, prevent the mitigate the corrosion, I do all these kind of things. So here I actually, make some of the nanoparticles here. It's made of nickel tungsten. These are the process you will understand, because nano, to make a very small particle nano size. So we follow some simple method, chemical method, and here we do. Then we analyze these things. And what I'm trying to tell you, you can see how some different shapes and all that. And sometimes the shapes we control so that we can get some desired property, and we can get better corrosion resistance property. And this is you need a physical evidence whether really it is a nano size or not. So we have gone to here, and here is the but if you see single particles, it may be less than 100. I know this scale, you see the scale contains maybe 1, 2, 3, maybe it's around 50 to 60 nanometer of each particle. So this is the physical evidence that I'm able to make some nanoparticle and use a corrosion resistance. Further, these are the techniques. If when you come in open day, you will see all these instrument like this is called a scanning electron microscope. Then we use another electron microscope. It's called a transmission electron microscope. In this microscope, we analyze all this product and this, because these are the physical evidence you need. You need some evidence. These are the compounds, and we use as a corrosion inhibitor. And as I told you, if you understand the Ohm's law, which is nothing but a relationship between a voltage and a current, but the same concept also used here, but the voltage and a current, this is a current density, that is nothing but current over area. So these current and voltage we measure, but here the measurement we do in an environment, in an electrolyte, and we monitor the current, and from that we use different concentration or the weight percentage of your inhibitor, and these inhibitors, they will go and act as a barrier, or they will act on the surface, and they will decrease here. And this corrosion, what I'm saying here, if you look at here my compound, the blank one, this is a pure copper. It's very highly corroding. Now I use some inhibitor, 1, 2, 3, 4 location. You can see the droppage is here. It's almost 7 times the corrosion has dropped. That is how I'm using this nanoparticle. I'm able to reduce the corrosion. These are the various examples you're not able to understand now. But what I can tell you, whatever you are studying, like the current and relationship, we use in a different way to quantify my corrosion. This is called an impedance techniques. Impedance is nothing but a resistance. In a DC system, like in your Ohm's law, you get resistance. If that is a DC system, if you get an AC system, alternating current system, there the resistance is known as impedance. So that impedance has 2 components, one real and imaginary. These things will understand. Then through that we are actually trying to quantify my corrosion inhibition rate. Then we do a lot of schematic. Why I'm showing these schematics, though you will not be able to understand, but you should get excited, because this is a new things will come up, and more you study. Always when you read in a textbook, you look at the schematic. Why they have drawn, like what is x-axis, what is y-axis, like any graph you see. Why the x-axis is this one? What is the y-axis? Why it is increasing? Why it is decreasing? What are the units are there? These things you should. If you understand the graph, you will understand the entire concept of your any topic you are studying, whether it's a metals, metals and non-metals chapter, that are the electrochemistry, or your current one. What is the chapter name? The effect of current and the current on the chemicals, or something, the chemical effect on the currents. I know that chapter is there, and these things you will understand. What I try to tell you, in any textbook, you are now in the you are in the when you are in 8th, 9th, and or up to 12th class, these graphs and schematics you must understand. For example, like here, if you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so many components are here, 6 components. What exactly is happening here? What exactly is happening here? What is that one? What I'm trying to explain. So these are the things I know. I talk about how the metal is corroding. Then how do I prevent? What is the reaction? How it reacts with the environment? How it reacts with the interface of that that environment? So these things I actually model it and explain. So what I'm trying to tell you, I'm just showing you all this. Though it may, if you're not able to understand, that's fine. But you should create an interest when you look into the schematic on your book, on the figure. You must try to understand what exactly saying. What I would suggest, any graph you see, first you look at the x-axis, then you look at the y-axis. What are the things in given x-axis? Why it is increasing, why it is decreasing, why it has become stable. If you ask all these questions, you'll be able to understand. This Ohm's law, which I told you, you will find it very straight line passing through origin, but is it true all the time? This is a question for you. You must find out, is it always a linear graph? You will get voltage versus current, the resistance you get it, is it always a linear? Then we have some couple of other techniques. Like I said that, when metal starts corroding, you will get some corrosion product. So these are the corrosion product. You can see here the bare copper. Then I try to not corrode this one. I'm trying to look at the different corrosion product here. So these are the various techniques I try to, to further qualify or quantify various parameters. So this is one of the compound I used on a nanoparticle nickel tungstate and able to control the corrosion. Then I just want to talk about another one. Cobalt tungstate is a nanoparticle. It is this one, and you can see here nicely some particles and almost a little bit size is a little bit higher, but these are almost close to you can see here less than maybe 10 nanometers. So these are all nanosecond. Similar things also we did. We used another different high technical all electron microscope, but these are a transmission electron microscope and an XRD. These are the various things you will study, because if you if this current which comes into we study different equipments are here in this lab. You can not only study the how much current is passing and how much corrosion rate is happening, what is the product, those things we can all identify. Then we can quantify the corrosion rate. Here I've given this is nothing but a current. How it is without black means my metal is corroding. Then it starts decreasing the moment I put an inhibitor. I can class. These things I study. Then I also look into various various way of looking into elemental mapping. I can see that you can see here. This is a very exact structure of the metal, how it looked like, and there is a some corrosion happen on the edge. Then I put some some deposit is here, like some oxide film is there. That also I can see. Then I further analyze these corrosion products and to reach into a conclusion whether the corrosion is increasing or decreasing. These two structure you see. This is actually you can see the nice film is formed here, but there is no nice film is here. So I'm trying to use this nanoparticle inhibitor to mitigate the corrosion. You can see you cannot see the bare copper now, but here you can see it. Here you can see it's not corroded. It is not actually protected, and that is what the structure looks like. This is what we analyze. 1, 2, 3 structure we take and we analyze. This is another example. Actually, this is how I test it. So what I was trying to do, this nanoparticle, I was putting on this copper disc, and you can see nicely coated. But once nicely coated, again I created a scratch. Mechanically, I created a scratch. Just took one blade and cut it. By doing that, again I expose the surface. Okay, the moment I expose the surface, you can see here, that's the this is like initially very scratch, and scratch is here. I put the film here, then it stopped here. This property I could able to see through by visually observing. By visually observing, my surface is corroded. So these are the nanoparticles we actually protect and the corrode. So what I'm just trying to tell you in this topic, what I would like to say that you have to understand the concept of the corrosion first, because I know in the textbook it is given, and there you will find out how do they protect. They use a coating. The coating is nothing but I put a color. You see the color on the wall, that is a coating, but that color is aesthetic purpose. But when you go to the industrial structure, you see on the pole, on the electric pole, on the high, in the outside of the street, that is all well protected by color. But that color is not only aesthetic; it has a barrier property to prevent this moisture, water, and the oxygen get into the metal substrate. That way, it can prevent. Or sometimes the reactivity series, you saw that in that reactivity series, one of the metal which is at the top, like maybe towards the gold, is highly protected. If you come to the bottom, you might find zinc and magnesium, they're highly corroding. So we can sometimes use to protect this two different component. Also we can choose it to protect the structure. Or pipeline, which I said now in my topic, it is this pipeline, this copper pipeline, which was carrying the seawater, the chloride solution. So in order to protect that, I was using these nanoparticles, nanomaterials, and also I have done a lot of work on these things using some organic compound also. And these nanoparticles or nanomaterials like cobalt tungsten, nickel tungstate, these were I used to put in that seawater, just run the pump, they will go and get adsorbed on the surface, and it will not allow any corrosion. This is what actually I was looking into, in this, in my my classes, my students are working on it. And if you have any question, kindly please ask.
Thank you, Dr. Barik. Few questions from the registered participants. I can ask the questions. You can clarify it. After that,
Okay.
the participants can also ask the questions. Okay. Yeah, Sandeep from 11th standard, Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya, Agra. He is asking what is the main form of ceramic degradation?
Yeah, Mayor says ceramic is not going to corrode actually. Ceramic is not corrode. What I was trying to tell you, your like dental implant, the crown is there. If you are using metal substrate, some people have reached, they will use some gold implant. In that case, your environment is your saliva. Your saliva, it will corrode. But in other cases, in a ceramic, if you use, the saliva will not corrode. But there, the mechanically it can degrade. When you're chewing this your food, mechanically you do, and sometimes it depends on the temperature also where it is application there, that also it can create a crack, it can create, but not a corrosion will happen. Only the corrosion will happen on the metal substrate.
Thank you, sir. Next, Vedasri from 12th standard, Kendra Vidyalaya, Virudhunagar. She is asking, is it effective against long-term corrosion protection using the nanomaterials?
That is a good question. That is a good question.
Yeah.
All this corrosion preventive strategy. If I tell you, you just closely observe any pipeline going in your home, you will see that they carry through that either water or the crude oil and all that. And that pipeline, either it may be inside under the ground if it is there, if it is open also, you can see that what they do on the top of the pipeline, they put a coating, various layers of coating, and they also connect one wire to it, and that wire they taken outside, they've given another method called a cathodic protection, and inside that these things are okay. There is another thing, there are various strategies there to prevent the corrosion, but entirely you cannot do unless like your gold may be good one, but you cannot use gold as a pipeline. So this effective one is like some lifetime of these metals are there. So that's why whenever they design any structure, if it will survive for 25 years, but actually that can go for at least 30 to 40 years. The tolerance limit they allow. There's some little bit of corrosion every year, it will happen. But only thing is that if you take a mitigation strategy, you can control it. Not entirely, you cannot make it zero, even in a long term.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you for your good explanation for the asked questions. Next two questions. Anup Pandari, Kendra Vidyalaya, IIT Chennai. And are there any effects on environmental of using these nanomaterials for corrosion of mitigation?
Yeah, that I think what he's trying to tell, the toxicity and for example, like in the sea they used to use this submarines or ships. They used to use some paint, lead-based paint, that has been banned. So these nanomaterials also, what I can say, it is also we need to be careful when we choose it. So a lot of times the toxicity affects, and if the nanomaterials get washed away from the pipeline, get into the sea, it may affect the aquatic life. It is there, possibility is there. So it's not going to deny. Even if you breathe these small particles, like that also creates, even the dust also, it can create a trouble.
Thank you, sir. Next, P. Tamilchelvan, 12th standard, Kendra Vidyalaya, Virudhunagar. Nanomaterials are considered to have promises in the reduction of the corrosion rate of the metal substrate through the surface modification. Is it correct?
Yeah, that is what I was talking about. Yeah, it is correct, but you cannot get 100% efficiency, but we have able to achieve up to 97 to 98%. Plus, we are also combining with the organic compound so that you can get a very nice anchoring you can get on the metal substrate, and it can prevent the corrosion.
Thank you, sir. And Murali Krishnan, Kendra Vidyalaya, Aruppukkottai. He is asking utilization of nanomaterial for reduction of microbiologically induced deterioration of cement-based composites.
But if you're trying to use as antimicrobial compound, that is going to work. antimicrobial. But in cement, I don't know, if you're looking for a antimicrobial purpose, definitely nanoparticles will work.
So one of the teacher is asking the concept behind the why the nanomaterials is used for the corrosion mitigation.
Okay, so that's what I was trying to tell you. One of the thing is,
It's basically she is in a biology teacher, so it's more about asking about what is the behind the your talk. What is the concept behind your talk?
yeah, the concept is first of all the size is there, and second of all, you know, when we are preventing a corrosion, we need to form a film. We need to film a composite film on the substrate. But these compounds, when you disperse them in an environment, they can go and form a barrier on the substrate. And also we look into the anodic and cathodic capability of these materials. So they can act as a cathodic barrier on my anode metal on my copper surface. So this is the mechanism actually, and also it has a poor, solubility, so that we prevent it by dispersing using some other organic compounds. Then if you're interested on these things, these two work has been published in nicely some paper. What we have achieved here by changing its shape, size, and dispersibility and all that, by using this phenomenon, we are able to form a barrier film on the substrate, so that actually acts as like a coating and prevent your environment. The environment is chloride solution, not get into the metal substrate, not get into the copper substrate, and that it prevents the corrosion.
Thank you, sir. Participants, you can feel free to ask any clarification or questions. Please unmute your audio and you can ask your questions. Participants.
What I would try to tell you this in up to 12th class, I think that metals and non-metals chapter.
Most of the teachers are also participated in the webinar, sir.
That actually is metals and non-metals chapter. These concept comes actually very simple examples are given, because there it is. I know corrosion is there, anode, cathode, electrolyte, and the splitting, galvanization. All these things are there. If they go and back and read it, it will very easy to understand. And that video I put it on the put those in that beaker was having some one sample and electrolyte, and we could see some gas is bubbling. That is the classic example of a corrosion. And what I was stressing out, all the metals and alloys we see in our daily life or in our use, they have been actually extracted from their stable state, and that stable state is ores or the minerals. The moment we extract it, the energy state we have changed it. So it is a natural tendency, like us. We come to office, we cannot stay overnight in the office. We have to go back to the home. That is our lowest energy state. We go and ideally stay there and happy, we are stable there. So, you come and work like that. The metal has been extracted from these different minerals, the ores and minerals. So now these things in a highly energetic state. So it has to undergo this corrosion whenever you get an opportunity. The moment it gets corroded, and that it forms some product, and that product is almost close to the minerals what we have been used to get them. So that is how the basic things of a corrosion to happen.
Thank you, sir. Anybody can ask? Participants? So there are no more further questions. Thank you. Yeah.
So one more question. So I'm Kiran Devedi from Kendriya Vidyalaya Army Area, Pune.
Okay.
So just now you talked about that cathodic protection. So for underground pipes, we use magnesium, zinc, and all those metals. They act as anode. So for how much time they remain? Because magnesium is highly reactive, so it will be used up. So how much time means? How much amount of magnesium is required for any such amount of substance?
Yes, okay, I'll clarify. Actually, this underground pipeline which is in the soil, the soil there, it's completely submerged inside the soil. The soil acts as a electrolyte. That is because it contains a lot of compound like sulfate, calcium, magnesium, and water is there, oxygen is also a little bit there. So these act as electrolytes. So pipeline will be bound to corrode. So that is your external structure, external surface of your pipeline. And inside my compound, like the inhibitor, this chemical compound, we add it to protect it. So now the outside, this to protect it, what we do, first of all, why do we choose cathode protection? Actually, what I was trying to tell you in the reactivity series, or we call electrochemical series, if you look at the position of iron, that pipeline, that steel, and your zinc and magnesium, they are in the different place. That means the zinc and magnesium are more more active, the more will corrode compared to iron when they are separately hold together, separately when they are separate. But the moment you combine them, the steel or the pipeline with zinc or the pipeline with the magnesium, so magnesium will corrode and it will protect the steel. How it protects? Because when the metal is corroding, the pipeline is corroding, it gives the current. That electron comes out in the current. But now, the moment the current is coming out, moment the electron is coming out, what is happening? The cathodic species, like oxygen is there, water is there, they start reacting. These are the species will take the electron from the pipeline. But now I am diverting that electron source. I am diverting that electron source to magnesium and zinc. Because zinc and magnesium highly active, they will start dissolving. The moment they start dissolving, they will give the electrons. So now the electrons will be utilized by oxygen and the water, and the cathode reaction will happen. But the problem is here, what you said, this zinc and magnesium, they will they will start corroding. That is true, that will happen. The whole idea is here, that is called sacrificial nature. But now I have a pipeline for 10 kilometer, I have a pipeline for 20 kilometer. So I need to quantify how much zinc I require, how much magnesium I require. So that is what we call the lifetime of the sacrificial anode. So there is a terminology, I know that maybe textbook is there, we call it output capacity or output capacity or your efficiency. If you look at the each terminology, that output capacity is there, 1 ampere is there, one term, then H is there, then I think some kilogram term is there. If you look at each term, ampere stands for your current output, current, and H stands for time, your hour or the time, then kilogram. So that means I need to look into that, I take that piece of zinc and I put in the soil and allow it to corrode. Okay, allow it to corrode. So then I have to monitor 3 parameters: the current, that ampere, then the time, and this one. But then based on my the pipeline length and my that also how much current I can supply from the zinc to the pipeline, I have to calculate. It's a very simple, madam, because what it does, it's all based. The simple equation is actually we take this metal, we immerse in that soil, and we take the initial weight and final weight, and from that I can calculate that this much kg of metal can be used for this many of hours, and this much of current will give. That is how simple. So that means if I take suppose I want to get 1 ampere current for to protecting the pipe, but that one, and I know if I take 1 kg and to get 1 ampere, I can use only 1 hour. So like that, if I'm going to design that structure for 10 years or 20 years, I have to look into that weight of the metal. I can increase it, and and also I can increase the duration of the use. But there is another danger here. These metals are also have a tendency to corrode very fast. We need to control it. We need to control their corrosion. So that's why, if you, I don't know, maybe in your textbook it will be there. They don't call it magnesium or zinc. They might be using the terminology like alloy, zinc alloy and magnesium alloy. They are using. That means some other alloying element is there, which what you do, it will slow down the that
corrosion process.
Slow down it, but still it will act as an anode. These are the things actually works how to protect the structure. Am I correct, madam? Am I answered?
Yes. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay. If any question is there, kindly ask.
Anybody, Any more questions? So there are no more questions. Thank you, Dr. Barik, for thought-provoking and nice lecture for the nanomaterials using for the mitigation of corrosion. Thank you, Dr. Barik.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving the
Participants, please subscribe our CSR CICASA YouTube channel and kindly fill up the feedback form also. Thank you. Thank you, one and all. We will meet on next 19th, same day. Yes, 2 o'clock. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.